they won't let me rest, man. So I went to bed right after I recorded my AEW Double or Nothing review because I absolutely could not stand anymore. But this is MongoSlade. I am still alive, and I am going to talk about the AEW media scrum in which Tony Khan lost his giblets as he was upset that people were saying that CM Punk was not a draw. I'm going to take a surprising view on this. I'm going to say CM Punk is a draw. ... For AEW. All right. So let's go back to the beginning of this thing. This started with Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff was upset that CM Punk had said that him and Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole and all those guys coming to AEW was a bigger deal than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and all of those guys going to WCW. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that very much. And then CM Punk also took some shots at him on Twitter. So we're going to play some of the audio so people can get the full context of what Eric Bischoff said. Then we're going to get to Tony Khan's response. Fair enough? Okay.
He threw a punch on social media, and I thought, well, this will be fun. So I responded in kind. Kind isn't the right word. I responded and pointed out that, this was a guy who came out, and said that, him coming to, I'm paraphrasing it now, not quoting it. I quoted it on my tweet, so I'll let that stand. But I basically said, for a guy that thinks he's a bigger deal than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, coming to WCW or Randy Savage, so far he's fallen flat on his face. And I published his quote. I didn't make anything up. I took his quote and I posted it and said, how's that working out? Which it isn't, obviously. The guy's probably, in terms of a return on investment, this guy has to be the biggest financial flop in the history of wrestling.
All right, so you got to hear that Bischoff called CM Punk the biggest financial flop in the history of wrestling. So, now, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Eric Bischoff is talking about return on investment. Here's not, despite the fact that I actually agree with Bischoff more often than not, my question would then become, does Bischoff know what the initial investment was? That's my question. How much does CM Punk make? We don't know. We absolutely do not know. All right? Because that's information that is kept very close to the vest by Tony Khan. So we don't know what the investment into CM Punk is. We can only look at the metrics and say, is it good enough to justify what CM Punk would say would be a lot of money? Right? Now, we don't know what, again, we don't know what the investment is. We're not entirely sure. So we're not fully in the bag yet. It's very difficult for us to prove on the metrics alone, on the money alone, that AEW is wasting money with CM Punk. It's very difficult to do that. Now, here is another clip from a different podcast. Same two guys, same Eric Bischoff and Conrad Thompson. But we're gonna play this part too, because I think this part actually gets to the heart of why it's been so difficult for AEW. But I think mostly I want to play this particular clip because of what Conrad says. Because I think what Conrad says is very important. Let's play that.
Necessarily experts. These are just super fans online. But a lot of people believed, boy, when Punk and Bryan and some of these other surprises show up, they're going to be over 2 million. That hasn't happened yet. And
no story.
All right, so that is the part that I think Conrad is talking about. And that's the part that a lot of us who are on the internet doing analysis, that's what we focus on. We focus on, is AEW doing better than it was before? Substantially better than it was before. In terms of TV ratings, the answer is no. All right? The answer is no. But what I think also happened is people overestimated CM Punk's and Bryan Danielson and all of these guys being on the same roster and what that would mean for the TV ratings for AEW. People simply overestimated. Now, is that that's Mark dreams though. Marks always see people as being bigger stars than they really are. The average person walks past CM Punk, doesn't really know who he is. But, there's people in the wrestling space who like, oh my God, it's CM Punk. There's other people who are kind of like, hey, isn't that CM Punk? I just kind of, maybe, I don't know. We have to put things, in, relative terms. Our expectations were not met by the CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, all these guys going into the company. And when I say our, I don't mean me. I have gone on record as saying that this shit wouldn't matter. You can actually check my archives. This is one of the few times where I can say, go listen to some videos that I made. Specifically, the Bryan Danielson and CM Punk Can't Save AEW video. That video, I said it. It doesn't matter who you sign, it's what you do with them. And then now Bischoff is going to go into why the CM Punk situation has not worked.
That's the missing element, you think?
Yeah. Because you had all this anticipation. Hey, Punk's coming, Bryan Danielson's coming, this guy's coming, this girl's coming, everybody's coming, this is going to be great. They came, they saw, nothing really happened. Got a big pop, yay. Crowd reacted, that was awesome. Sold a bunch of t-shirts, even better. Now what? There's no now what. It's not episodic.
So, there you go. That's what he's talking about. Now, 6 minutes into this video, we've laid the groundwork of why Tony Khan was so upset, right? So now we're going to get into Tony Khan's vigorous defense of CM Punk. His vigorous defense of CM Punk. And it is a doozy.
This is a huge thing from the first dance, the biggest Rampage draw in the history of that show. The matches, he carried the Friday Night War, which, by the way, is a matter of record in fucking court in the state of California that we won the Friday Night War. Just ask Jerry McDivitt because he fucking wrote it. Hey, this guy won it versus Matt Sydal, who's a great wrestler. He had another goddamn great match on Friday night. This fucking guy, he fucking did the Friday Night War. He did the first dance. He's done the record Double or Nothing. He did the record All Out in his debut. He was a big part of a record Full Gear, a great match with Eddie Kingston, and he wrestled a bunch of young guys, a bunch of veterans in between there. Will Hobbs, Daniel Garcia, goddammit. And then he showed up and did the biggest program in terms of everything, TV, box ever with MJF. And then he did the goddamn main event here. He's the biggest part of financial success in the history of this company. Let's fucking go!
Good God Almighty. Good God Almighty. Look, the body language alone is hilarity. All right, it's hilarious. When Tony Khan starts talking about the Friday Night War, CM Punk was like, "Oh, whoa!" He starts blinking a lot. His eyes bugged. He started blinking like, "Wait a minute!" And as Tony Khan was going, CM Punk was like, "Yup, keep going." Let this guy make a fool of himself. Your friends don't let you make a fool of yourself, Tony. Your friends don't let's look at some of the things that he said. Because like I said it was going to be fair. And I do think CM Punk has been a draw for AEW. That much is true. And I think people are being delusional in saying that CM Punk has not been a financial boon to AEW. He has been. The issue is to what degree, right? So we're talking about, he said he did the highest rating in the history of Rampage one time, and then it fell off a cliff the next week and has been nowhere near it since. And CM Punk has wrestled on that show numerous times and has gotten nowhere near that initial 1.1 million. Nowhere near. All right. So they did do the highest rated Rampage of all time. Okay. That much is true. Now, he's also, he didn't mention it here, but people have said CM Punk has sold the most t-shirts in AEW history. How many t-shirts compared to whom? We don't know. But is it true? Likely. Okay? It's likely to be true. The record Double or Nothing, the record All Out. Now, he says that All Out and Double or Nothing and these events that CM Punk has wrestled on has performed better than previous events. How much better? Well, AEW doesn't really release those figures. So we don't even know what the past events did to compare them to the events today. It could be 1,000 more. It could be 500 more. It could be 10 more. We don't know. At least we don't know in any reputable way that's on any type of hard data. We know some information that might be leaked to some friendly news sites. You know, like a friendly news site might call Bleacher Report and say, hey, you know, this is what we did, yada, yada, yada. But that's, again, they have multiple different metrics. There's fights, there's Bleacher, they do pay-per-view there. There's some other things that go on too. So if you get one number, we don't know if that's the full number. We have no idea. And we also don't know if they're counting live, as in this is how many people bought the event when it occurred, versus how many people bought the event after hearing it was a good event and then they went back and bought it. So we have no idea. We don't have any idea of how to fact check Tony Khan. We can't fact check him. So we don't know what the initial investment was to CM Punk. We can't fact check Tony Khan and any of this stuff that he's saying as far as financial concerns and for the company. We know that, you know, from some people who follow the action figures, that CM Punk's action figure has outsold everybody's action figures. Okay, so that's true. But again, to what degree? We don't know what the competition is. We don't know what CM Punk was paid. So we don't know how much if CM Punk is making money back. We know that CM Punk is making AEW money. And one intrepid fan from the 83 Weeks comment section said this, and I think this is very important, and I want to make sure this is on the record. He says, I wouldn't value AEW on their TV ratings alone. In fact, that wouldn't be one of the top 3 things on my list, to be honest. Punk gave them a boost on YouTube of some 170,000 subscribers. That's very significant, and doubled their video views for his initial month, from 11 million views to 29 million views. That's very significant. It's a lot of fresh eyeballs watching your product. And then AEW dropped the ball by doing nothing significant with them. All right. So I know a lot of people, I have been a big proponent on this channel of not looking at one metric and saying that one metric is down, therefore everything is in shambles. I don't know why everybody insists on doing that. It's, to me, the laziest way to do analysis of wrestling is stop looking at the TV ratings. TV ratings, you know, you're comparing everything that's on TV. If the show is being hurt because the NBA playoffs is on, because some mainstream television show is on, and, you know, America's Got Talent or something like that, of course, you know, the average viewer is going to rather watch the mainstream show than watch wrestling. Wrestling is a niche product. So that's just one metric, right? Now, when Tony Khan says that they have the highest attendance that they've ever had at Double or Nothing, which I heard is 14,000. I'm not sure. You can double check it if you like. If 14,000 at Double or Nothing 2022 is the highest that they've ever done, and that's because CM Punk was in the main event, then CM Punk is a draw. Period. You know, you can say, oh, that's a small number of people. It's like, it wasn't that long ago that people were saying they couldn't do 10,000. There's episodes of Dynamite within the last month that have near empty buildings. You know, I'm talking not doing well. You know, same thing can be said. I know the same thing can be said for WWE. I'm not talking about them right now. I'm talking about AEW. If they did 14,000 for Double or Nothing, it was a big show. Now, they do only have quarterly pay-per-views, which gives people the ability to save up money and travel to Las Vegas or wherever they're going to have the show in order to have the show, in order to be there. Doesn't matter. And you can even say that a lot of those people would have showed up anyway. How many of those people were going to show up for CM Punk specifically? We don't know. But if it's higher than it was last year, and it was higher than the last event, then we can say that CM Punk is a draw. But again, we need that data in order to say that. Now, another thing to go with Double or Nothing 2022 is that we've said that it was the highest grossing event that they've ever had. It's over $1 million, $1.1 million. I read online. I think one of the friendly AEW friendly news sites said they drew 1.1 million at the gate. I'm going to take the piss out of this because of inflation, right? Inflation is probably the reason why they have $1 million gate. It's like, it's pretty easy to say, like, it's like, it's Memorial Day. It's like saying, well, this is going to be the most expensive barbecue we've ever had. And it's like, yeah, because the cost of food went up. It's inflation. It's the ticket costs have gone up because of inflation. So yes, we can say that if you adjust for inflation, what would it be? Who knows? If you compare the 1.1 million they made today, if you deflate it by, comparing it to 2019 numbers, how much would it go down? We don't know. I'm not doing the math on that. I'm not doing math. All right. I'm just looking at the likelihood that Tony Khan is correct. Now, TV ratings have not done well under CM Punk. In fact, if you look at the TV ratings, Eric Bischoff is 100% correct that CM Punk has underdelivered and has been a financial flop for AEW. But that's assuming CM Punk made $4 or $5 million and, has increased the cost every time he's on the show. And he does. CM Punk increased the costs on every show that he's on because he costs so much to book. Now, if Tony Khan is happy with it and he's okay with it, then I can't debate it because I don't know that he has the information. All the data is on his side in a book somewhere that he doesn't let anybody see. And unless he lets, some friendly websites like a WrestleNomics or somebody like that into the cupboard to see what's going on, we don't know. We can only assume. But I can tell you with the absolute truth, he looked like a goddamn fool sitting there yelling, screaming at about CM Punk being a draw and using matches to... Now look, it is a fact that AEW's the biggest draw for the AEW for the past 6 months has been CM Punk and MJF. Their feud was the biggest draw for AEW over the past 6 months. That's true. You can't argue that. But when you look at the overall show, and which is what we're looking at here. We're looking at the ratings for the overall show because yes, AEW can do certain things. And this is before we get into the Friday Night War stuff, because I really wanted to push this back. And when you look at certain things, what is the company going to take to advertisers, to sponsors, to investors? Because they still have all of that stuff. WWE, is a publicly traded company. They have to be a little bit more open with this stuff. But if Tony Khan calls somebody and says, I want you to advertise on AEW, he's probably going to say, we outdrew WWE 18-49 between 10 and 10:30 on October 15th, 2021. The Friday Night War. We won the Friday Night War. CM Punk won the Friday Night War. And here's the thing. When he says that Jerry McDevitt wrote it, he has to realize, number one, lawyers are scumbags. Number two, Jerry McDevitt is chief scumbag at WWE, next to Vince. So when you're talking about, and three, they're being sued by MLW for being a monopoly. So WWE, in defense of WWE, is going to look for something and say, how can we prove to this court that we're not a monopoly and therefore have no monopoly authority on the market? Even if it's whether you think it's true or not, how could they go about proving that? They can say, well, yes, we did. We can say we lost that 30 minutes, and we could use the Wrestling Observer, all of the different websites that have reported that. We can just use them to bolster the argument that we're not a monopoly, and therefore we have no monopoly interest, and we can't hurt MLW. All right? So that's what they're going to do. You know, I wouldn't trust that information, you know, because a good, astute lawyer, a good, astute judge would probably look at that number and, you know, you can see Showbuzz Daily. At the end of the night, SmackDown finished with more viewers and the exact 18-49 that Rampage did. You know, Showbuzz Daily, SmackDown ended it at number 3, Rampage ended at number 4. You have to get very, very specific. Very, very specific. Specifically males 18-49. Specifically through this 30-minute block. You know, that you can say that AEW, quote unquote, won the night. You know, it's not like they run head to head and all of a sudden, you know, they're doing great. People have been using proxy wars. You know, AEW's in New York and in this building on this week. WWE is going to be there 3 weeks later, you know, and trying to compare it. You're not there at the same time, you know. Things change, different nights, different situations. So we're talking about, you know, AEW saying, you know, CM Punk run the Friday Night War. It's like, okay, great. And that's what they're going to go to their investors with. That's what they're going to go to their sponsors with. They're going to go to their sponsors and say, look at our YouTube views. And YouTube views is very important because that's sponsorship money. That's ad revenue for the company. Whether you like it or not, whether you think it's as important as TV or not, is irrelevant. It's important. That's why they do it. That's why they do the YouTube shows. It garners a younger audience because more younger people more likely to watch YouTube. It also garners a more male audience because more men watch YouTube or listen to YouTube, however they consume YouTube. All right. So that's that. It's a boon to the company. If we take all the things that we know and believe to be true and assume to be true, CM Punk is selling more toys, action figures than anybody else. He's selling more t-shirts than anybody else. Him being on the show has equated to higher ratings for his segments. Even if it doesn't equate to the higher rating for the rest of the show, his segments are higher rated than anybody else's. Assuming that's true. I'm pretty sure it's not always true, but we're assuming that's true. Through the way that CM Punk is positioned, we can probably say that it's true. If putting him on the card increases the live gate and increases the buys for the pay-per-view, if that's true, if all of that stuff is true, then CM Punk is a draw for AEW. It's unequivocal. You can't argue it. You're arguing with success at that point. Now, if you want to compare their actual information to what your expectations were, then yes, it's an absolute failure. If you're looking at a dollar for dollar return on investment, we need the information of what CM Punk is being paid. We need that. And until we get that, I'm talking solidly for sure from a reputable source, what CM Punk is being paid, not, you know, gossip from other websites or whatever, or what the figure might be or what it could be, because we also don't know if he's getting pay-per-view bonuses. Like, even if you know, like, CM Punk makes $5 million a year, which I've heard some people say. All right, okay, is that his base pay? Or is that, you know, plus bonuses, plus merchandise? We don't know. We don't know what the payout is. You know, we don't know what the cut of, is he getting a cut of the pay-per-view revenue? We don't know. Does he get a cut of the gate? We don't know. We don't know how much CM Punk really makes. So until we know that, we can't know what the return of investment is. We can only assume that looking at the TV ratings, they would have expected higher ratings for CM Punk. They would have expected bigger buildings than they work currently. But, you know, if they're doing better than they were doing before, then either A, the brand got stronger, which is entirely possible because they picked up bigger stars, or B, CM Punk has put the company on his back and he's carrying it forward. You know, he's the racehorse for the company, which is, you know, kind of sad, to be honest, because they were pushing MJF and Darby and all those guys as being sort of the backbone of AEW. If it's now CM Punk, then it is what it is. But it's very difficult to argue because we don't have all the information. Until we can get an accounting of what CM Punk makes, what the pay-per-view buys are, what the gates are, all that kind of stuff, until we get like a full accounting of that sort of stuff, it's impossible to know. But I'm more inclined to believe that CM Punk is a draw. You know, why else would Jay continue to pay him and continue to book him and continue to put the belt on him? You know, it's not in this name value. The guy obviously is turning heads, but it's only for AEW. It's not crossing over into the casual audience. It's probably generating more money out of the same pool of fans that existed before. If you catch my drift, you know, like the TV ratings have not gone up. It's been about 800 to a million. The highest is 1.1 million. I think they've done without a, well, if you include a special episode of Dynamite, probably 1.1 million. Okay. About that number, about 1 million people. That's been AEW's top since about 2019, right? About 1 million people, here or take. They have not gained an audience. At most, it's staying steady or dipped a little bit. But if they can get more of those people who were watching in 2019 or 2020 to pay for the pay-per-views now, more likely to get them in the building now, then CM Punk is doing his job. Now, it's not increasing their TV product, but it's getting more of the people who watch on TV to engage with the product more, then he's still drawing. Because now he's getting people who are just passively watching it on TV to actively engage. And that's important too. It's an important thing. There's a lot of people who, they don't increase casual audiences. They just, you know, increase the participation of the hardcore fan. And that seems to be what CM Punk is doing. That he has almost no effect on the casual audience, or very little effect on the casual audience. They may watch the clips on YouTube. They may watch his segments, but that's about it. But then when you watch the hardcore audience, they're spending more money. You know, they're buying more merchandise because they're more engaged with CM Punk. And I think, and I can understand it from that perspective, that maybe there aren't new viewers coming in, but the viewers who were there are spending more money. Because it's kind of what happens with WWE too. You know, so it is what it is. But let me know what you guys think of this crazy full-throated defense of CM Punk that Tony Khan has levied out there. And I will say that if he feels so confident about it that he's banging the table and saying, let's fucking go, then let's fucking release the documents. Let's see it. Let's see this information. Let's see it, bro. You know? He's not going to do that because he doesn't have to. And I'm not one of those people who are going to call him a coward or whatever for not exposing his own business practices. I'll just say, until he feels comfortable sharing that information, I take anything he says with a grain of salt. But I can understand why he would say that and why other people would say that. I just don't have full buy-in. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, daddy.